Hey, it's Blast Processing, and I'm Dad, and you're watching more Games with Dad. Today, we're looking at the first game I ever owned, Sonic the Hedgehog 2. Although Sonic 2 came out on November 21st of 1992, which was nicknamed Sonic Tuesday, and one of, if not the first international game launches ever, I didn't actually get my own copy until my 5th birthday in late April of 1995. I mean, that's not to say that I hadn't played Sonic 2 by that point, because it was almost impossible to not be exposed to Sonic as a kid from the 90s. I watched and played the first two Sonic games fairly regularly at my family babysitters. In the interest of the privacy, we'll just call them the S family going forward. I'm pretty sure one of my first memories ever is of me waking up from my nap at the S family's house and seeing one of the girls playing the Mystic Cave Zone. I loved the vivid colors and the music, and then the boss music started. I got scared and had to be picked up. But during the early 90s, Sonic Mania was in full force. Sonic had 2 cartoons by that time. You could get Sonic toys in your Happy Meal at McDonald's, and most Sega Genesis consoles at the time came bundled with Sonic 1 or 2. So thanks to Sonic, Sega actually kind of dominated the early 90s and took a sizable chunk out of Nintendo's pretty dominant market share. During this point in the 90s, Sonic was actually more recognizable to kids across the globe than Mickey Mouse or Mario himself. But that's not to say that Sonic 2 only sold well because it was bundled in with consoles, or just because there was a large marketing push at the time. It had some improvements over the original Sonic the Hedgehog, the most obvious of which would be the addition of Tails, Sonic's fox friend that can now be controlled by player 2. They don't really give a good explanation as to why he has 2 tails and why he can fly with those tails. I mean, there's probably an explanation somewhere in the Sonic Archie comic series, but the Sonic comics are weird and I always feel like I need to shower afterwards. But when he's not being controlled by player 2, Tails is controlled by the computer, and it does a pretty good job until he gets you killed or loses all your rings in the special stages. But other than the addition of Tails, the next big improvement is that the levels are actually fun to play through. I might have to apologize to the 6 or 7 Sonic 1 fans on the internet later on, but the levels in Sonic 2 are just much less frustrating to play through. I mean, don't get me wrong, the level design in Sonic 1 starts off really strong, but there's only like, 3 acts that most people even enjoy playing through, and everything is just so much smoother to play in Sonic 2 with the exception of Metropolis Zone, but believe me, we'll get to that later. Sonic 2 is really a great first game. It's a bit forgiving due to you being able to take an extra hit as long as you have more than one ring. And Sonic 2's level design teaches you to play better and gain more speed, which gives you access to higher parts of the stage that tend to be easier, full of goodies, and much quicker, which makes them much more enjoyable to play. You also get the spin dash, which lets you go from 0 to full speed practically instantly instead of needing to run for a couple of seconds. So for this reason, when you hear people my age talk about their favorite Sonic game from their childhood, you'll hear them mention Sonic 2, Sonic 3, or Sonic Adventure 2. Unless you hang out with, the guy that likes Sonic 1, or, Jeff, who thinks they're funny for ironically liking Sonic Spinball. Yes, Jeff, it's truly a masterpiece, thank you. So, it's enough with the history lessons. This is starting to sound like every other Sonic 2 video ever made, and believe me, there's plenty of those on YouTube already.
Great choice for a first video, honey. You're really nailing it.
So let's go through some of my thoughts as I played through the game. Emerald Hill Zone. It has the best Sonic Level 1 music theme, and I will take that to my grave. So everyone likes Green Hill Zone, but I feel Emerald Hill Zone is much more energetic, fast-paced, funky, and he just fits Sonic so much better. It meshes with the faster pace of Sonic 2 overall. Other than that, Emerald Hill it's just kind of an easy first level that kind of eases you into what the game's gonna play like. And, no one should really die on it, but it looks like I'm a bit rustier than I thought, huh? Next up is Chemical Plant Zone, and this is probably my favorite just general theme around a Sonic level ever. The scenery is really well done, and you get this sense that you're in this giant city at sunset, and it definitely isn't as outwardly friendly as Emerald Hill, so there's kind of a ramp up in stakes. And the music is just, the music, just don't get too distracted and drown, and yeah, that is terrifying, but if you die, they're usually okay because there's an extra life right after the checkpoint. And for the longest time I could never get past Chemical Plant 2 when I was 5 or 6. I would get so nervous during the underwater section with the moving stair blocks, and the drowning music stressed me out that I would just start spamming the jump button and I'd end up missing jumps. And I still get caught up on Zone 2 even after playing Sonic 2 for 25 years. Be careful not to die after you beat the boss, because that would be very embarrassing. Aquatic Ruin Zone. I remember the first time I got to Aquatic Ruin when I was 6 or so. Felt like I had finally beaten the game because I was stuck on Chemical Plant 2, and it was just my nemesis for so long. I never really had issues with Aquatic Ruin Zone. If you play carefully enough, you won't really ever have to go in the water. Although the spin dash does help you zip around if you get stuck in the murky depths, and it's much faster than you could move in the water in, say, Sonic 1. And you can even get on top of the totems during the boss fight, which can make things easier to manage if you aren't as rusty as I am. Casino Night Zone. Gambling. This zone explains why I have kind of an addictive personality. You can earn a bunch of lives here if you have more patience than I do, but be careful not to get crushed by these giant blocks. Why are they here? No one knows. I remember when I was 7, I ran out of time and was stuck on one of the bumper sections and could not get past it for the life of me, and that was super frustrating, and it kind of still is frustrating. Thanks for all the bumpers, Sonic 2. Fun fact, you can actually glitch the crap out of the screen if you spin dash to the left of the last checkpoint in Zone 2, so do with that knowledge what you will. And originally the casino boss actually took me a few tries to figure out how to actually kind of hit it, but here's a tip for you. Avoid using the flippers, just spin dash and jump at an angle, and it's super easy. Hilltop Zone. The music is super bouncy, and we get like this funky fake guitar bend here. For how high up we are, there sure is a lot of lava in this level, and so you better get to know where the power-ups are if you don't want to stress out about burning your blue hedgehog butt. And if you want to annoy whoever you're in the room with, just stay in the infinite spring loop in Zone 2. Also, the Hill Zone boss is super easy. You can literally beat him in like 10 seconds. Mystic Cave Zone. Another all-time classic Sonic song, one of my favorites. There's a little bit of a difficulty spike here, and by spike I mean literal spikes. They're everywhere. There's also a very real possibility of getting crushed just before the end of Zone 1, which is kind of a jerk move. Mystic Cave Zone is notorious for having 2 spike pits that you can't get out of. So there's one in the first level, but the one in the second level you need to make sure you slow down and grab the handle. And fun fact, side note type deal, in the Android version, they made the spike pit in the second level the entrance to the secret palace zone that was shown in magazines but ultimately cut from the original movies. So that's fun. Oil Ocean Zone. I hate it. This is where Sonic 2 really becomes a drag for me. I always want to play the level faster than it lets me. The layouts seem a little weird because you aren't always moving to the right, which makes it kind of hard to gauge if you're actually making any progress or not. There's a bunch of weirdly placed spikes, and there's kind of traps everywhere, and I feel this is the point in Sonic 2 where the enemy placement starts to become more like Sonic 1's, and then it's just kind of like, I don't care, just put something there. They become obstacles instead of fun things to do. And like, if I want to go fast and these traps just come out of nowhere, nah. Be careful not to get crushed if you're underneath the little exploding platforms when they come back down. The boss is also kind of hard because if you get hit, your rings can fall into the oily abyss below. And also, Tails can mess with your multi-hits and cause you to die. So thanks, Tails. And hopefully you found the last checkpoint that was off the beaten path, or you've got a good 20-second trek back to the boss fight. Cool. Metropolis Zone is the worst zone in Sonic 2, by and large. It feels like a bad Sonic 1 zone. The enemy placement, the giant levels that go on forever, the nut and bolt sections that you have to go slow through or else you'll get hit and fall off. The fact is it's 3 levels instead of just the normal 2. So every time you feel like you have an opportunity to build up speed, bam! Manus Boomerang, Exploding Starfish, or Crab Claw Haymaker right in the jaw. This entire zone is like riding on a roller coaster with a bunch of outstretched hands that are just slapping you in the face the entire time. Like, you want to go fast, but you get punished for going fast. This is why. And why is the music so happy? I don't understand. This is supposed to be kind of like Robotnik's Lair, and it feels like I'm in like a spandex-filled workout video from the late 80s. You'd normally have something a little more ominous for something this close to the end. I mean, sure, it feels a little industrial at first, but then it's just cheerful and bouncy, which is the opposite of how I feel when the level design slaps you on the wrist every 10 seconds. So after Metropolis Zone is Sky Chase. It's a auto-scroller, which is a stage that automatically scrolls to the right. It's a bit of a quiet moment of reflection before the final stretch of the game. The music, like the surrounding sky, is very cheerful and relaxing until you're interrupted by this giant sky fortress half through the level. I love how foreboding and uneasy it kind of made me the first time I saw it. Like, I have to get on that thing, it's huge! That isn't to say that Sky Chase Zone is a cakewalk in and of itself. Tails Plane tries its best to stay under you, but through either intentional trickery or bad luck, you can outrun or fall off and instantly die. And there's no checkpoints in this level, so if you die, there's, you know, another 3 minutes that you have to go through again. Sky Fortress. So we go from a peaceful jaunt through the clouds to immediately being shot down by Eggman's giant air fortress. The music's very bombastic and ominous, which for one reason or another, maybe just the horn sound they used, always reminds me of the music in Wolfenstein 3D. It sets the stage up to feel very perilous, which is exactly how it plays because the entire zone sits above a giant bottomless pit. So one mistake and you're plummeting back towards the earth. The Sky Fortress boss actually kind of challenges your reflex and your spatial awareness. Imagine someone shooting lasers at you from the ceiling, and then during that you have to avoid a bunch of bouncing DVD screensavers that are going all over the place, but you also need to use the same deadly screensavers to be able to hit the boss's weak spot. And if you get hit too high up, your rings will glitch through the ceiling and you will be completely defenseless and get mad. So that's fun. It really kind of reminds me of the notorious hallway before the death boss fight in Castlevania 1. So like the amount you have to manage while trying to stay focused on your objective can get a little overwhelming, but eventually I prevailed and held on for dear life as Robotnik's rocket left the atmosphere and docked with the Death Egg. Death Egg Zone. I hope you brought plenty of lives because Death Egg Zone demands perfection. 2 bosses, no rings, plenty of sharp objects to make you regret following Robotnik up here. It might not take much effort for a lot of players, including myself, to get here, but this is where many players leave defeated and with the tails between their legs. I actually meant to get more footage of Mechasonic, but it's hard to kind of deprogram yourself after 20 plus years because you really can't waste time or lives on Mechasonic when you're trying to figure out how to beat Robotnik's Death Egg robot. You can be risky and try to hit him with the spikes out, but that's usually, I mean, you have to get it just right. Otherwise, you are sent back to the beginning of the stage and have to fight Mechasonic again, and that's not fun. So what I always do is wait for him to crash back down after he jumps up and then hit him twice. The message here is clear: be patient or get punished. Rinse, repeat, and for over half a decade, the Death Egg robot was the monkey on my back. Always in the back of my mind. It took me years of getting frustrated, putting the game down, not coming back for months at a time, but I eventually stood victorious, and finally beating it made me feel like I just won the Super Bowl. So lessons learned. What was the point of all this? Did I gain anything from beating Sonic 2? What did I learn on my journey to stop Robotnik's Death Egg? Lesson 1. You will never start out being the best at anything, and it takes time and effort to get good at anything, and that's not just for video games. I remember dying over and over again on Emerald Hill Zone when I was still a young boy, and the first time your grandparents heard me swear was during me playing this game, immediately followed by me chucking my controller across the room, which leads me to my next lesson that I learned is that some things will frustrate you in life. Sometimes it's best to just take a break and come back later. Whether it's 5 minutes, a day, a month, a year, sometimes you just have to step back and come back with a clear head and a fresh perspective. And sometimes things get easier as you get older. You need to work and build upon your experiences, and then you can accomplish things later on that you were positive you could never achieve years before. Lesson number 3, your favorite things don't have to be perfect. Sonic 2 isn't a perfect game. It's not even the best Sonic game, but that's okay, because sometimes a game is greater than the sum of its parts, and how you feel about games will probably change as you grow as a person. You can go from enjoying playing the first few levels to beating the game as quickly as possible to going back to just enjoying a few of the levels, and that's okay. You don't need a 100% a game in order to enjoy it, especially with the Sonic special stages. I don't like them. Play your games however you want and whenever you want. Don't stress yourself out trying to do something that you hate doing. Lesson 4, being player 2 stinks, but that doesn't mean that you aren't useful. Being there when others need you makes the boredom stink just a little bit less. And lastly, the Sonic drowning music is utterly terrifying, man. Alright, now that I've dispensed what little wisdom I have, thank you for watching. If you enjoyed the video, please make sure to leave a like and subscribe for more if you'd like to do so. Watch my Twitter to see what game I plan on doing next. I might even have a little poll to have you guys vote on it. So that was Sonic 2. Stay tuned for more Games with Dad.